Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join Andrew as we discuss this month's view from the turnbuckle. So, what's the saddest news this week, Aaron, or this past month?
Yeah, so it seems like every time we get together, we have two things that we're going to talk about, which is someone passing away and then, of course, somebody asking for their release. So we'll talk about the sad one first. Pedro Morales has passed away. He is best known for being one of the longest reigning WWE champions, but also he's the first ever Triple Crown champion. He has the second longest individual reign as a IC title holder, and then the longest combined. Miz is currently second place right now by like 10 days or so. So Miz at some point is going to pass that. But Pedro Morales, he was not during our time. You know, he was during Bruno Sammartino's time. So there's not a whole lot that we personally know about him, but we do know that he was a big pioneer. He really helped out with kind of getting wrestling into a mainstream audience. He was a Puerto Rican, and so that really helped out the Puerto Rican market, and of course the East Coast and Vince McMahon. So it's sad. Luckily, he was much older, which is always a good thing because we don't want to talk about too many young wrestlers passing away.
Just echo Aaron's thoughts. It's sad that we have to talk about this every month. Somebody that passed away in the wrestling field. So. Condolences to his family, and that's all I got.
Yeah, no, much like Doug, it's sad. It's kind of the part of being a wrestling fan. Luckily, he lived a very, very long life, it sounds like, so condolences to his family.
And, next we have someone asked for their release, and it was kind of surprising, but not surprising. So, Roger, who asked for their release?
The Perfect 10 has decided that after months and months of not being utilized on WTV, or at the very least not being utilized properly, probably since last year, maybe when he was contending for the U.S. Championship, Ty Dillinger has, and I think a lot of people saw this coming, especially once Cody started AEW, and they're very good friends from their time back in the E together. Dillinger has decided he wants to move on, and I think it's the right call. Obviously, he won't take the gimmick with him, but I think he's a guy who AEW could use. He's a solid mid-carder. He's not a guy you build a company around, but he is a very solid mid-carder. Reminds me a lot of Zack Ryder in the sense that fans like him. He's entertaining. He's good enough. He's not great. He's not going to put in your 5-star classic, but he's a great guy to have in the middle of your card. And he's somebody people recognize. You can get a lot of heel heat off of him. And good on him. I hope WWE grants it.
I'm not surprised either. I really can't recall the last time we saw him be relevant or even on TV. I thought it was kind of surprising that he did it on his 38th birthday. But you know what? Hopefully he finds greener pastures elsewhere, as other wrestlers have that have struggled in the WWE.
Yeah, and I was listening to our last show, and Roger, you called it. You had said that Ty Dillinger probably is going to ask for his release, and he needs to go. And kudos to you for getting it right. I really hope that he can make a splash in AEW. I really hope that that's where he goes. People will chant 10, and he'll have I think his name is like Sean Spears, I want to say, or something
Sean.
along. Yeah, it is his name. So he can use his. It's literate, and so you can use that as his actual name, or he can have a different name. People will chant 10 at him. He can't do the Perfect 10 gimmick, but he can do something probably very similar. And I think it could be really good for his career. I think it could be really good for him.
Yeah, that is sad that no matter where he goes, he can't use Perfect 10, but everyone will know him as 10. I'm pretty sure he'll be able to change it just enough where he can get away with it.
I mean, he can do something very similar, the prestigious 10, the immaculate 10. It's very easy to keep that gimmick going. You change one name, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to the WWE title. Daniel Bryan retains that Elimination Chamber. Aaron, did you think that this was the right thing to do for Daniel Bryan at this time, especially because I think he's getting over pretty well as a heel?
Yeah, he's definitely getting over really well as a heel. If there was any time to take the title off of him, this would have been a good opportunity because you can say, hey, I was screwed over. And so as a heel, you can be bitter and resentful and ask for the rematch. There's a lot of different avenues you could go down. I actually am okay with this. I think Daniel Bryan has been pretty entertaining. He's had some really good promos. The one thing, and I know Doug and Roger, I know you guys will talk a lot more about it, but Kofi Kingston I mean, the crowd was really behind him in the Elimination Chamber match. And I honestly, even like all 6 participants were really good. I think for the most part, all 6 had a somewhat of a chance, obviously some way more than others. But the Elimination Chamber was actually entertaining. I thought they did a really good job with it. And I was fairly happy with the pay-per-view and fairly happy with the result. I thought they did what they needed to do to set up for the next pay-per-view was really good. And I think with what they're doing with Kofi being the number 1 contender makes total sense. And I think that it can be a really entertaining match. And we might be seeing a rise here on Kofi's part. It won't be like a super rise, but I think that this is an opportunity to really thrust Kofi into a stratosphere that he hasn't been in a long time.
This was something that we finally got to see the WWE title main event of pay-per-view. I can't remember the last time that happened. But it was entertaining. The storytelling was great. I was a little sad to see Joe leave so early in the match, and kind of clean. I was kind of hoping he'd get more screwed over so he could just be, pissed off at the whole universe as his character seems to be. But it was an entertaining match. I was very glad that Kofi, my number 2 pick, it was between him and my number 1 pick when it came down to it. I think this would have been a perfect time to give it to Kofi, though, and give it to him for just that 1 month between now and Fastlane. I didn't want to see this match at WrestleMania. I really don't. I think Daniel Bryan can have a better partner for WrestleMania, or a bigger hype, or something bigger for WrestleMania. But this could have been fun to have Kofi be the champion for at least 1 month with all this other stuff, and I think it would have been really, really entertaining. And you know what? If WWE is hurting in the ratings, you could have sparked something with giving Kofi the title.
I thought the match was great. It's one of the better Elimination Chamber matches in years. It actually reminds me a lot of the Bray Wyatt win, when it just seemed like everybody belonged in there. All the spots hit the right notes. I thought, my only complaint was Joe going out early, just because that frustrated me. As much as I'm a Joe fan, I didn't want him to be the first guy out. But even Joe didn't look weak in defeat. I wanted him to be maybe the third to the last guy out or something like that. Having said that, I love the way they built Kofi as this relentless underdog. He didn't look weak. As a matter of fact, it looked like he went for the championship. A guy who had been waiting 11 years, he went for a top chamber splash and missed, and Bryan took advantage. Bryan looked super smart. I don't like the chicken heel. I like the opportunist. This is much more like Edge, or even when Triple H wasn't all that bad. I know that's Aaron's favorite wrestler from that 2004 period. But Daniel looked like a guy who capitalized. He didn't look like somebody who had the match lost and then got lucky because of Rowan. He made a smart move. He let Kofi make a mistake. He capitalized. That was good. I really enjoy the idea of a New Day versus Bryan and his Planeteers feud, because it's basically the eco-friends versus pure capitalism. I mean, that's what the New Day are. They are wasteful. They throw pancakes in the crowd. They have cereal. So they do so many ridiculous things that this feud could be great. I hope they bring back Harper for this feud, because the Bludgeon Brothers and the New Day have history. So we really have the opportunity for a 6-man tag. The only part, and I don't want to get down on this because it's not the fault of the Chamber or anything Kofi did, it does feel like we're just kind of treading water until Cena comes back. And I don't want Bryan versus Cena at Mania. Much like Doug said, I want a better partner. But if it's going to be Bryan Cena, I'd rather Bryan Kofi. I have no interest in Cena getting 17 over Bryan. I have no interest in that match again. I don't want to see Cena just basically AA Harper and Rowan, and then Bryan loses at the end. So, but other than that, I loved the card. I loved that the main event was the WWE title for the first time in, I feel like, 2 years. Like it seems like forever. Well done. This is one of the better pay-per-views WWE has done, and that's impressive because the Rumble was good too, in my opinion, and they haven't had 2 good back-to-back shows in a very long time.
Yeah, actually, you're right about that, because the Rumble was good. I know that we were there, but I rewatched it, and the Rumble was good, and Fastlane was, for the most part, it was entertaining. It wasn't crap like it has been in years past, and that actually makes me really worried, for Fastlane, because Fastlane then, most likely is going to be set up for failure. Andy, though, I do want to ask you, Bryan is going to face Kofi at Fastlane. Most likely, there's a good chance Bryan will win. Who does Bryan take on at WrestleMania? Does he take on Cena? Does he take on Kevin Owens? Does he take on another? I'm
pretty sure that he's going to take on Kevin Owens. But I think this is going to be another situation where, like Daniel Bryan, of course, he was not going to be, he lost the Royal Rumble and Rey Mysterio got booed out of the building. I think this is going to be another thing where they're like, you know what? If it goes if Kofi is still that over after Fastlane, we have to put him in that match. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did something where, I don't know, I don't like this idea, but it's WWE, where they did like a 6-man, but whichever team won, you could designate one person who would be the title holder. I don't think they would do that, but if it's WWE, so you never know. But I think some way it's going to be, instead of being Daniel Bryan versus Kevin Owens, it just wouldn't surprise me if it turned out to be a 3-way instead. And that would at least I think that would help it out a little bit more than if you didn't do a 3-way. So
Roger, let me ask you, just kind of building off of Andy's idea there. Bryan and Kofi, they're going to have a match. It's rumored that Randy Orton and AJ Styles are going to have a match at Mania as well. What do you think about doing a fatal 4-way, whether it's elimination or, first to pin? Is that something that you would be interested in seeing, or do you think it'd be a little too reminiscent of WrestleMania 2000?
A 4-way is fine when you have a story between all 4 competitors, going back to Roman, Joe, Strowman, and Lesnar. By the time we got to SummerSlam, they were already naturally intertwined, so it made sense. Right now, unless you throw AJ back into the picture again, you don't have 4 competitors who are intertwined. Now, granted, I guess you could build the story from there, but logically, a 4-way just doesn't make sense right now. Kevin Owens doesn't really make sense right now, and I love KO, but him just showing up and getting a title shot doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And to be honest, if Kofi loses at Fastlane, he has no business getting a 3rd title shot. So unless Kofi beats Bryan, he should be out of the picture. And I don't know where, I guess you could throw Andrade and Rey both in there. That's about the only way I could see you getting to a 4-way without it just being unbelievably convoluted. And there is something to the idea of the big match is usually one-on-one. WrestleMania title matches, now granted it's not the main event, but they're typically one-on-one unless there are extenuating circumstances, Foley's retirement, Rock didn't truly win the Rumble, something like that. I don't think this is the right time for a 4-way.
It's and I was just trying to think of what match I would want to see at WrestleMania between Daniel Bryan and who, and I guess just for namesake and that aspect of big match John, I know Roger doesn't like it, but that would be a WrestleMania caliber match, and at least for selling tickets and getting everybody excited. I don't want to see John Cena win it, but I think that would be at least a decent name on there, because Kevin Owens, if he's coming off of injury, that's not enough time to prep a WrestleMania type match. That'd be fine for if it was going to be for Fastlane or something else that you have a newcomer come up and challenge, but I don't know. I think that's one of my problems with wrestling right now is just the aspect of there's nobody else built. If you have somebody defend, and especially, in an elimination chamber match, you just had a guy defend his title against 5 other people and win. I don't think any 5 of those people should even be in contention for a match. Unless they got screwed somehow or some, I just found it funny is the rope break rules of the Elimination Chamber, where it was okay for, I think it was Joe to keep on his submission, but as soon as Kofi got to the ropes, Bryan had to let go, and that's the Elimination Chamber. But
Doug, so I will say, and I actually read a thread about this. When I watched that spot, I actually didn't think that he let it go because he had to, because I don't feel like the referee comes in and says, let go. It actually more or less looked like Bryan let go because he was exhausted, because they fought in that spot and he didn't have it on his normal way. Like, he had it with a weird leg hook. So I don't necessarily know that was a rope break spot in the traditional sense. It looked a lot more like Bryan just couldn't keep it on anymore. Like, they had been fighting in the match, and it didn't seem as bad as I thought it was going to look, as opposed to like Joe's, where he just kept it on, so letting go would have been stupid.
Yeah. Well, I thought Joe, when he did let go, was more of he was exhausted or he needed to, lost positioning or something like that. I thought that was more of what that looked. It really, to me, it just looked like Kofi gets his arm on the rope and Daniel Bryan just lets go right away. And it's like, really? I mean, especially for that kind of submission, I don't think getting your hand on the rope really even helps you with any kind of leverage or anything.
Yeah,
it seems silly.
Not really. And I think one of the things, and we're not going to do it right now, but we may do it at our next show, is talk about all the players that would be in a WrestleMania, because there's a lot, right? You have typically your Cena and your Taker, and of course the WWE title, the Universal title, and we may have to talk about, okay, here are all the players, and here's typically the number of matches. How do you put them together? So that might be a conversation that we have at a later time. Moving on, though.
But real quick, I have an idea what they should do with this at WrestleMania. Here's what they should do. It should be Daniel Bryan versus Jinder Mahal. And Daniel Bryan beats Jinder Mahal in 4 seconds.
We're moving on.
Well, no, he beats him in 4 seconds, and he says that he's all natural and he doesn't need anything, any extra drugs in his system to look like a professional wrestler, something like that. And then John Cena comes out and beats him.
Dear God. All right, Andy, speaking of asinine suggestions there, the Intercontinental Championship. So Finn Balor defeated Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley to win the IC title. So he finally has, I guess, his second title now in WWE. What are your thoughts? I mean, was it a good thing to put the IC title on him?
It surprised me. I really thought that Lashley was still going to win. I just thought it was going to be something weird where like Leo pins him or something like that. But instead it was that Finn pinned Leo, which was funny and also kind of in a way it was predictable as well. But I was surprised that they put it on him. So that means because he did the job, if you do the job for Lesnar, I guess you get rewarded, especially if you make Lesnar look really good. But yeah, so kudos for Finn for doing that. So I'm really happy that he has a belt now, because last time they put a belt on him, he got hurt in that match. Yeah.
I don't like Lashley, like, as a general rule. I think he's kind of just boring. Like, I don't get any sort of emotion when I see him. I just kind of get the whole, oh, it's Lashley. But there's something about this that bothered me in the sense of the Intercontinental Championship used to feel special, like especially with the Universal title and basically persona non grata around WWE. The IC Championship was a main event, I think, for Battleground, I want to say. Seth Rollins and Ziggler did that Iron Man match. It felt like a big deal. And in the last 3 or 4 months, the IC Championship feels like worthless. Like, Seth lost it to Ambrose in what was a very subpar match. I think Ambrose lost it to Lashley in some sort of triple threat match. And then Lashley loses it via Lio Rush to. I mean, there's no prestige, there's no interest. I think we talked about on our last show about who are the contenders. I don't give a crap about this title. I don't care about this feud. I don't care about it going into Mania. This has been so lackluster that either do the open challenge and bring some prestige back to it, or this is destined to be pre-show, in my opinion, because this is heatless. This is boring. I don't actually care. And that's a shame, because I do like Finn Balor and I think he has good potential. But this IC title win didn't feel special. It didn't feel meaningful. Compare it to Seth Rollins last year when he won it at Mania and it felt like a big deal. He completed the Grand Slam. This felt super underwhelming. And this is probably the second worst match of the card. Like, man, I didn't care.
Yeah, I agree with what Roger's saying, and the fact that the IC title used to be the title of, your top wrestler, the people the fans were cheering for, but not necessarily somebody who could make it to or to be a top champion. But it just, I don't know, it's lost its prestige. They need to put it on somebody to bring it back to full extent or make it exciting again. Hopefully Finn can do that, because Bobby wasn't going to do that. The only excitement I ever had for Bobby Lashley was to see him versus Brock Lesnar, and that was quickly lost after what they've done with the build-up for him and also with Braun Strowman. But it seems lost. I mean, WWE in general just seems lost. So they don't know what they're doing, and they're just doing whatever they can to try to, what they think, appease the wrestling fans.
And I think it's really unfortunate, too, because I'm surprising to say, but I actually like Bobby Lashley. I liked him back in the day, 10 years ago when he was at WWE. I liked him in TNA, and I actually like him, for the most part now. Like, I think he's fairly entertaining, to an extent. And I think if he's booked right, like Doug had mentioned, him versus Brock Lesnar could be a really good match. Like, it could be a fun match. I'm not saying it's going to be a technical match, but it could be fun. And it is unfortunate. Well, now, one of the things, though, that Roger, you had brought up was, the IC title should be relegated to the pre-show. And, we have a lot of titles now. I mean, we have 3 tag titles. We have 2 secondary. You have 2 world titles. You have a ton of different titles, right? So my question is, do you think even the IC title or the US title should even be on WrestleMania?
Absolutely not. Without a question in my mind, they should not be. And I'll even go a step further. Let's say Bryan beats Kofi. I wouldn't even necessarily have the WWE title defended at WrestleMania. I would be fine with New Day versus Bryan, Bryan and his Planeteers, for example, in a 6-man tag match. Let it be a TLC match. No championship on the line. Just because that's a match then you can believe New Day can win. I don't really believe Kofi's going to win a championship. But if this is just a match about, Bryan and the guys keep attacking New Day and they say, hey, we want our match at Mania. We're going to put tables, ladders, and chairs. Fun match. You don't need to defend a championship. Look, there's going to be an abundance of championships defended. This WrestleMania is going to be about Ronda and the Women's Championship, and then, of course, Brock Lesnar and Rollins potentially slaying the Beast. Let the WWE Championship get the spotlight at Backlash or one of the other championships or one of the other pay-per-views. No IC. I even would do a Survivor Series type match. Have the IC champion and the US champion pick 4 people on their team and go 5-on-5. It's a good way to get people on the card very quickly. Just let it be IC versus US, and maybe the winner gets the winner gets to cash in for a championship match, or you automatically get entered in the Money in the Bank. I don't care what your stipulation is. I would defend the women's tag titles, the Universal title. I don't necessarily know I would even have Asuka defend the women's championship because they built up no contenders for her. Championship matches should have feuds that have been building and should have meant something. Becky chose Ronda. That's the match that should be at WrestleMania. Let Asuka fight somebody else. For all I care, let Asuka fight Shayna Baszler. Let it just be an exhibition match where it's champion versus champion. What a good way to showcase Shayna without either one of their titles being on the line. Asuka's never been defeated in NXT. Shayna's the current dominant champion. But I would really reduce the amount of championships that are defended at WrestleMania. Let it be 4 or 5. And, that way, when a championship is defended, it means something. WWE Championship can main event Backlash for all I care.
Yeah, I think that is a tough one to figure out which title you shouldn't have on, opposed to the ones that you should have. But I think you guys make some good points. So let's talk about the tag titles. So the Revival are they won the Raw tag titles. So do you think? How should I put this? Do you think that they should continue to hold those until WrestleMania, or maybe combine them with the SmackDown tag titles?
Well, I think that first of all, I think we are probably all in agreement that the tag titles should probably be combined into one. The Raw tag titles have been hot-shotted quite a bit, and we'll talk about what they've done with the SmackDown tag titles in a little bit. But the Raw ones have definitely been hot-shotted back and forth, and I think that the Revival should hold on to it, and they are a heel team, and they recently lost to in a non-title match, but let them continue to win the title via nefarious means or by a foot under the ropes and the ref didn't see it, stupid things like that. But let them hold on to it and then build a credible challenger to them. And then at WrestleMania, maybe you have a match where people are very invested in it. Maybe not as much as the women's, but something where they're like, I can't wait to see this match. This could be a good match. And have it in between, have the Universal title match, the tag match, and then, Ronda and Becky. You can do things like that. It'll be a little bit of a cool down, but have contenders there that make me care. I hate to say this, Rude and Gable, I love both of them. I don't care about them, though. There's nothing compelling there. Absolutely nothing. Have a team there that is a real team that you want to see face each other.
The tag scene in WWE is, and we've talked about it for the last few months, is just in shambles. I do find it funny that 2 teams that both have been rumored to be leaving very, very soon in the WWE, one of them even officially asking for their release, all of a sudden have the tag titles. The Revival, after they win a match on Raw, go back and say they want the release. Sure enough, they get the Raw tag titles. The Usos, Rikishi, had mentioned that they are planning to move on from the WWE. And even after Jimmy's little spat with the Law, all of a sudden still gets the tag team titles. So I guess
Jimmy
if you want
wanted to bring the cop into the Uso penitentiary. So more or less like an offering, he was just welcoming, that's why he squared up to him like, hey, do you want to go on lockdown? So really, he was actually just trying to relate as a guy who also put people on lockdown.
Okay. So he was just explaining to the cop he was one of him.
Yes. Yeah. They were just trying to lockdown brothers.
Oh, okay. Well, the cop just offered him to ride the lightning, and apparently he didn't want to do that. So either way, I think it would be hilarious if you had some tag team just come out and say, you know what, to declare ourselves as the number one contenders, we are going to say that we're going to leave for AEW. And then you're going to have your tag match.
I would like to go on record to say that Doug and I are going to leave WWE for AEW, and therefore we should become the next tag team champions.
There we go.
The world tag team champions of the world.
And I forgot to mention this when we were talking about it in the news, but somebody, I cannot remember who it was. I'm not taking any credit for it. But when they saw that Ty Dillinger asked for his release, said he will become the next IC champion.
The sad thing is we're probably not that far off, and he's on SmackDown.
You know what? Actually, R-Truth has the U.S. title, so you know what? Him taking it off him isn't that far-fetched.
Well,
No.
Again, it's more or less the fact that the IC Championship, I think, is on Raw and Ty Dillinger is on SmackDown. Also, I would love nothing more than R-Truth to do an open challenge but keep showing up to Raw or NXT. It just came perfectly, right? Like, he's doing an open challenge, and they're like, dude, you're not on this show. Like, it would just be, or, why not?
Show up on 205 once.
Show up on 205 Live and try to get it in as a cruiserweight champion. Like, who cares? The tag team division on SmackDown had been fantastic until you had Shane McMahon win the championship, and then it looked stupid. Raw has been so much worse when it comes to their tag team division. I mean, I think Rude and Gable won it off of a storyline that involved peeing, I want to say, on the Glorious Robe. Also, this also reminds me, for the second time now in the last 3 or 4 months, a team or someone has won a championship by not actually pinning the champion. Because if I'm correct, Rude and Gable pinned Maverick, who was not the AOP. So they redid that dumb storyline, of course, with the IC just recently. And like Aaron said, look, I like Gable and Roode individually. I loved American Alpha. I enjoy Glorious Bobby Roode. Turning him face was such a career killer. I don't understand how you messed him up. Like, legitimately, I don't get how you didn't see this guy is the next Triple H. Just make him a heel. Like, he is a heel. He is perfect as a heel. Turning him face was terrible. Putting him in a tag team was stupid. You should have never broke up Gable and Jordan. And I think Gable's actually a very entertaining comedy wrestler. He's a very good tag wrestler, but they deserve better than this. The Revival, I don't want them to be the champions because I want them off of Raw. I want them on SmackDown where there are actually other teams for them to fight because there was no one on Raw. So I want those titles unified. I want tag teams on one show. If they did 2 women's tag belts, it would be stupid. But you know why the chamber match works so well? Because you could get women from both shows, and then you had 6 compelling teams. You don't have challengers right now. The only other team I can think of is AOP. It's AOP, Rude and Gable, and Revival. That is not a division. That's a match. SmackDown has a couple more teams, but still, you don't have a deep enough division to be doing both, partially because Vince splits up every tag team after a year. So let's just, you're already kind of experimenting with the women's tag belt going between multiple shows. Do the same thing with the tag belts. Unify those. Let one be red and one be blue. That way you can show that, it's, unified, whatever. But let's be done with this 2 divisions because I don't need WrestleMania having 2 different tag matches for the titles. You're not going to get 2 built-up feuds. And truthfully, when's the last time Raw's tag team titles had a good feud? It was always when singles guys were feuding, whether it was Ambrose and Rollins, or I want to say Cesaro and Sheamus versus the Hart. It's just been a very long time.
I would like to say one thing because we know that WWE listens to us. My request is have the Revival and have the Usos hold the titles until WrestleMania and then have them face each other. And have it be for brand supremacy. Have it be to unify the titles. I don't care. I want to see that match.
Leaves WWE.
Exactly.
Leaves WWE.
But I would love to see
or winner
that match.
gets their release granted.
Yeah,
yes.
Whatever it is, they will fight tooth and nail. Then, all right, we're gonna see a shoot fight, and I will be looking forward to that. But it would actually be entertaining, so that's what I would like to do. Andy, the women's tag titles. I know you're a fan of Sasha, and I know you're a fan of Bayley. What are your thoughts?
I was happy that they won them. I think it was deserved for both Sasha and Bayley. I think that they needed it. I think that's something that they needed, and they they didn't need it, but they deserved it. And I think that with WWE doing this, it showed that, hey, we do agree with you. You're that good. We should have done this a long time ago. So I'm happy that they won the women's tag titles, and they are the first ever modern era WWE women tag champs. So, and
Doug, do you like the idea of having a women's tag titles?
I don't mind it. I think it's a good idea to get more women showcased on the show instead of everybody fighting for one title and you have 15 women, all of a sudden now you can at least, be like, all right, well, let's have a tag match. There's 4 women to be showcased on the TV show along with a couple singles matches. So I have no problem with it. But again, with what we were saying before with the Raw and SmackDown titles, I'm glad that they are going to stick to one set of women's titles that are to be defended both on SmackDown and Raw, or at least to be facing people from SmackDown or Raw.
I love the idea. I've been a proponent of women's tag belts for quite some time because, like Doug said, you can't have everyone going for one championship. There's a limited amount of spots. I really enjoyed this chamber match. I thought they did a good job of hiding the weaknesses of the competitors. Like someone accurately said, this is the best Tamina match ever because it's the least amount of Tamina you had to see. And that was a perfect way. And the same thing goes with Nia Jax, right? If you hide them and let them do very calculated spots and get them out of there, you're fine. I really thought Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville did a great job in this match. I really think they are a fixture of this division for, very long time, as long as they want to. And hopefully they don't try to hotshot Mandy into the championship. Bayley and Banks were the right call. I'm really excited at the prospect of them going between all 3 brands. And I also like the idea that now you can have women's stables. Like I've always thought Charlotte should have her own 4 horsemen, similar to her father. Now you could have Charlotte pair up with the Iconics or Sonya and Mandy, and now they could all be going after championships. I think you can just do more with the ladies having a women's tag belt and keep it at 1. Don't do something stupid. Also, they look like good championships. Like this feels like something you would actually want to fight for. It doesn't look like the Divas Championship. It doesn't look like the old Raw belt that looked like pennies. And it doesn't look like the Universal Championship. It looks like some kid's Crayola. Like it looks like a good title. And job well done for them. I hope they keep it up. I hope it gets defended on the main roster. Don't throw this on the pre-show. Don't throw them all in the whatever the Battle Royal is named after, is Moolah, Mae Young, or whoever. Build up a feud. Let them go between. I'd really like to see them on a takeover. Like I think Banks and Bayley versus not the 4 horsewomen. Those 2 suck. But against like the Sky Pirates, that'd be a really fun match for TakeOver. And I'd be fine with that, even if you couldn't get them on the main WrestleMania card. Let it be TakeOver Brooklyn. That would be fun for the Sky Pirates versus Banks and Bayley.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Definitely something that we can discuss at a later date. But first, let's say our sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or podcaster, or are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click script installs with a free site, hands on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo to see how easy it is. And if you use a special coupon code, Off the Mark, you're going to save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what are you going to lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. Also, make sure you check out Section 86's Off the Mark page and click on the banner at the top to save big on items from WShop.com. So we didn't talk about this yet, but we have to use this as a nice, lengthy topic. But NXT call-ups happened this past Raw and SmackDown. We had DIY, well, of course, is Ciampa, Gargano, and then we had Ricochet and Black. They showed up on Raw and SmackDown, which I was kind of shocked about. But you think if they were going to do this, they would have planned this out, maybe saying something on Elimination Chamber about it. But it just happened. Aaron, did you think that this was something that they were like, oh yeah, let's plan this out a weeks prior? What do you think?
I think WWE was trying to go for spontaneity, and there are hardcore wrestling fans that watch NXT. There's a very small sect that only watch NXT. And when you hear that 4 of the best people are going to be showing up from NXT onto Raw and on SmackDown, you're going to tune in. And I think it was actually pretty good. I think that they showcased the talent very well. And where I'm going to do a comparison here, thinking about the other call-ups that they were doing, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it felt like they were doing a little bit more with them. Like the DIY match that we saw on Raw and SmackDown, I felt was a little bit better than the heavy machinery matches that we have seen. I feel like it showcased them more, and I feel like it was a little bit better. I'm a little biased because I love Johnny Gargano, though. Ricochet's match was really good. You had him team up with a known superstar in Finn Balor. That was a good match. And also they showcased him. He got to do the 630, and people were cheering for him quite a bit. Aleister Black also probably was really good. It was interesting. It was different. It was funny to hear, him being called Moody so much, like apparently he's going through his emo phase. I don't know. But
But that's
either
like
way,
superstar over, right? You call him Moody. That's exactly what fans love to cheer is Moody.
yeah, Moody Black.
Michael.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It was interesting. I'm glad that they did though, and if anything else, that makes me go, oh, I wonder if they might do that for others. I wonder if they might showcase some other people and say, hey, we're going to have such and such just randomly show up and actually promote that. And, hey, if you want to see them, you can actually see them on NXT, and that makes NXT feel special. And then when they actually do get called up, people may know them or they might be familiar with them. I think they were testing the waters with Black at Royal Rumble, and I think that Black more than likely will probably show up sooner rather than later, probably right after WrestleMania. DIY will probably be a little bit longer, but once they show up, I think that people will actually be interested in them, and they'll be happy to see them.
Hey, Aaron, before you finish, I know you weren't very high on Aleister Black. Having now seen him on Raw and SmackDown, what's your thoughts?
And this is my feeling. I feel he has been a victim of good booking on NXT. And when I say that, I mean NXT booked him very well. They made him believable in his role. His match with Velveteen Dream put him over a little bit more for me, which happened, it was like a year and a half ago or so. That really made him go, oh, I like him, and it showcased both of them, and it actually elevated both. I think on Raw, I actually think he'll be misused. I think that they will misuse him. And I think that he will probably be in a role, I don't want to say like Bobby Roode, because Bobby Roode is very malleable, and Aleister Black is for the most part is kind of pigeonholed into a specific role. But I think that they will not use him well. I think that he will be kind of ruined.
Does that hold true if he went to SmackDown in your mind?
I think he would have some better dance partners at SmackDown, and like for example, his match with Andrade Cien Almas was better, and granted they do have history, so that definitely helps out. Versus him with the the Drifter, it was okay, it was fine, but it wasn't anything special. So I think that he would probably do better on SmackDown. But I think with Raw, I think that he would be ruined.
And do you think it's because of the bookers that are on Raw, or do you think that it's just the show itself?
When we say bookers on Raw, we mean Vince McMahon.
Of course. I'm trying to be nice because he might be listening.
Hi, Vince.
Look, I mean, how many times do you have to hear Adam Cole say, it's boss time? Like
Adam Cole? I would hear Adam Cole say that 100,000.
Sorry. I apologize. I would love to hear that. How many times do we have to hear Michael Cole yell out, it's boss time, or the big dog? Like he will be like, Moody Aleister Black. And like that will kill it. That really will. And yeah, you have Tom Phillips there and everything, and maybe he will kind of do that. But I feel like his voice isn't as powerful as Michael Cole. Michael Cole is the voice of WWE right now, for better or for worse. And on SmackDown, it's not going to be that way. And I feel like Corey Graves is maybe a little bit more loose on SmackDown, so I feel like Aleister Black might have a better chance.
That's thinking about it more, I think Aleister Black, I mean, he's good there. In SmackDown it'll be fine. I wouldn't mind if he just didn't go up for a little bit longer and just kept showcasing the guys from NXT. I think eventually they're gonna have to take the Undisputed Era. I think they're gonna have to bring him up at some point, which I think is going to be a shame, but I think that they're going to put him on Raw saying, oh, it's going to increase our ratings like these 4 guys from NXT did. But that means, when you look at it from one way, those are 4 independent wrestlers that they signed. And when was with that, I'm still trying to think about it. When was the last person that went through NXT and then made it to their main roster that was a nobody? Can you think of anyone that had nothing?
You say nobody, like not already a star?
Right, not already a star.
I mean, the Roman Reigns was not a star.
Okay, all right, there's one.
I'm trying to think of people they pushed besides Roman Reigns. Bray Wyatt wasn't a star. I mean, at one point he was pushed like a top guy. Rusev was not he was pushed like a top guy. Admittedly they have relied on, well, for one, they haven't pushed new stars prior to 31. Like that's problem number one, is that everyone was the Cena, Orton, Taker, Hunter, that was your guys. Problem two was that once they did decide to push people, it was the Roman Reigns show and everyone else was second tier. Really to Aaron's point about showcasing guys, who the first guy I recall being showcased at NXT without actually coming up was Kevin Owens. They brought him up into a feud with John Cena while he was the NXT champion, and he looked like $1 million in match 1. Now, obviously, match 2 and 3 were too close together. They redid it. But that first match against Cena, when he showed up in the open challenge, and I think he powerbombed Cena even quickly and stepped on the U.S. title, you win. This guy looks legit. Why they've never followed that template after that, I really don't understand. I'm still confused as to what they're doing with the 6 people they randomly called up from NXT. I have no idea what show they're on. I have no idea what they're doing. What are the characters? Like, I watch NXT, and I don't know what they are. I can't imagine what a casual fan thinks about EC3. Is he Lex Luger, too? What is he? Why is Lacey Evans coming out and getting inattention and just walking away? Heavy Machinery at least makes sense. They're a tag team. They're just kind of goofy. All right, what it is, what it is. Nikki Cross is crazy, is what it is. Lars Sullivan die? He just straight disappeared.
Didn't he convert?
Yeah, remember he's a Scientologist now.
Oh, may we wish him the best on his future.
No,
Maybe
but,
he'll just fall off the side of the earth. I don't know.
but Heavy Machinery, in all seriousness, I don't think they belong to NXT. I think that they do belong on Raw, or not. I mean, that's the best place to put them because they can do comedy, and that's all they're going to be. I mean, nothing. I mean, we saw them at
Yeah, but
at Access. That was all comedy stuff they were doing.
How has that worked out for the club or the Ascension, or even for a successful comedy of the Fashion Police?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Fair point. The problem is the only team to really break the comedy ceiling has been New Day. Everybody else gets treated like a joke. Even Enzo and Cass, they couldn't break through that glass ceiling, and Enzo was great on the mic. If you're not New Day, you really can't be a comedy team and be anything more than jobbers. I mean, and the sad thing is, I don't even think it's a comedy thing. The Authors of Pain were booked like fantastic monsters. Are they even on Raw? Like, what do? They just don't put in enough focus to tag teams. So if you are a tag team, you will get either split up or ignored. Sandy? When's the last time Sandy had a tag match?
Oh, they were on SmackDown. Just Eric Young was.
So
I mean, the other two were there. He just
Yeah.
It was a singles match.
yeah.
And here's the thing, though. You have those comedy tag teams. And yes, you are right. I guess they would be jobbers, which I think that's what they will unfortunately be. But they can also still get, I don't know, like make fun of a tag team to, I don't know. So everyone else laughs at that tag team, and then that tag team will come back and like somehow beat the crap out of those guys, so they get over some good heel heat, whatever.
Like the Authors of Pain.
Oh yeah, the Authors of Pain should be the ones kicking everyone's butt, but of course, that's a different story. But my other problem is that NXT is doing the Dusty Rhodes Classic again, which is I do not have a problem with that. That should be something that the tag teams should all be in, including Raw and SmackDown tag teams and NXT and also NXT UK. But they're not doing that. Then you could have interesting matches with the tag teams, and you can actually not just have it as a classic. You can have it over, I don't know, we'll say a 3-month period, and actually have it make sense. Why, I don't know, like if you do a round robin type deal, it would make sense.
No, March Madness style.
Oh, you can do it March Madness style too.
Like that, like a King of the Ring for tag teams.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it should be, but that's not what they're doing. But yeah, I think it's also the problem is that they have too many wrestlers. And I know that at the moment that they have too few, that's where they're going to get into trouble. I know that's what's going to happen. But some guys, there's some guys who they don't care. They will sit back and collect a paycheck, but some guys want to wrestle.
Well, that actually kind of brings up an interesting point, though. And I don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past, because I think we all famously said, maybe we have seen the best of NXT before they went on a run that basically put up maybe the best of NXT we've ever seen. Well, let's assume, I mean, I know Hunter said that, but let's say that these 4 guys are not long for NXT. Let's say they have 6 months at most. You've already called up the 6 previously, and now you take away Ciampa, Gargano, Black, and Ricochet. Who's left? Like, what does NXT have? Let's say even one stays. Let's say one of those guys stays. You don't have a very deep roster that I'm at least aware of, where you have, a spectacular 6. Like, you take those guys away. What's your top feuds? Who are your guys that you're building around in NXT?
You got Dream. That's
Dream's
one.
Cole.
Riddle, Adam Cole. Undisputed Era, sure, absolutely. Pete Dunne, I would even throw in there.
God.
Keith Lee?
If Keith Lee was being built to be a star, would he have lost to Cassius Ohno? Like, who's Cassius Ohno ever beat?
No one.
Keith Lee.
Oh no.
And
Oh no.
yeah, I mean, and I like Cassius Ohno, but obviously when Cassius Ohno is beating you, they probably don't have big plans for you. And obviously I don't know anything about, what is it, Dominic Djokovic or whatever his name is. Yeah, I mean, they have guys. I don't think I've seen a big name signing lately. they haven't stolen Dalton Castle or Jay Lethal or anyone from NJPW lately. So, who's the future, I guess, of NXT? Because the standard of NXT has been unbelievable matches at TakeOver with long-term feuds. Well, to do that, you have to have quality guys. And, I like Riddle. I think he can go. I think Keith Lee can even go. And Dream's obviously good. But once those guys are gone, who's in the pipeline?
Yeah, that's true. You almost have to find, if they had probably 4 more guys that were key, like either signees or 4 guys that you could almost bring back down to NXT. I mean, I think that would work. But it's like, okay, you're letting Ty Dillinger go. He wanted to go back to NXT, and he would have been perfect down there. I mean, that's we're gonna run into I mean, we did say this though. That might have been the best of NXT then, and then like 6 months later, it's like, oh my gosh, most of these guys are gone, and these guys are still doing good down here. There's new guys. There might have been like a takeover, like one of them, or I think it was one of them. Wasn't as good, but it was still good.
For the end, that one was pretty subpar.
Okay. All right, so that was not like almost like a 4.5 stars. It was more like a 4. Of course, their usual 4.5 stars. But yeah, so I think that's where they just need to. I'm pretty sure there's people that they're waiting to pull the trigger on. I mean, there's people that they've been working with now for like 3 years that finally are starting to, I think, look better in the ring. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Aaliyah, I think her name is. She's gotten better, but she's also been zero. She's never wrestled. I can't say for the other 4 horsewomen, the other 2, but that's a completely different arc. But I think that if you can have Adam Cole do something with that show, and they could do, and I think that him and Dream could have a nice little feud with Riddle as well. I think that if you need a couple other guys just to come in that are going to be, I don't know, you just need to book them properly, I think is the best way to explain it. So,
Doug, do you think that we have seen the best of NXT?
I think when we look back at it, we were kind of wondering and saying that we saw the best of NXT, and then we were pleasantly surprised by everything else. It looks like that way again. But I don't put it past. I think Triple H has done a wonderful job getting new talent and everything like this. I think it's only a matter of time before. I mean, if I truly don't think that these are call-ups for Ricochet, and I do for Aleister Black, but for Ciampa and Gargano, I don't think these are official call-ups. I think these are just showcases, just to say, hey, we have these people in NXT. But eventually, yes, you are going to be calling these people up, and who's going to be quote-unquote taking over NXT when they all do come up. And I think time will tell. But this is a hell of a class to have to follow.
Aaron, I have to ask you, because I know that you have more undying faith in the leader of NXT than probably any one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Have you learned to never again doubt the King of Kings? And that, do you just believe that NXT will continue to put out hit after hit after hit? And are you ready to call him the greatest of all time?
I hate you so much. Are you ready to call Tom Brady the greatest of all time?
No.
I think Triple H
performance in the Super Bowl, he doesn't deserve to be called the greatest of all time.
I think Triple H is the best booker going right now. I think Triple H is going to do wonders when he takes over WWE, when him and Stephanie are actually at the helm. That was something I was incredibly worried about. I did not like him as a superstar. I still don't. I think that NXT, we probably have seen the best current. That doesn't mean that they can't get better. I agree wholeheartedly with your guys' assertion of who are the 6, essentially. Like, who are even the 4? You know, like if you look at Raw or SmackDown, you can probably pick like the 4 top people, you know, on each brand and say, like, these are probably the 4 best or the 6 best or whatever. And with with NXT, we can say the 6. I mean, we had talked about it at TakeOver. You know, the one that were at halftime heat. Those 6 were the best on NXT, in my opinion, probably in everyone else's opinion too. When you have people leave, and I think Aleister Black is a foregone conclusion. I think he is gone. He is going to be leaving. Gargano, Ciampa, I don't know. I don't think their story's done yet. I think that there's more gas in the tank for that. And so I don't think that they're going to be leaving, at least not, soon. But maybe they bring it up to the main roster. Maybe they continue the feud there. I don't know. But I think Black will be gone. And so you have to get more people put in there. So then if Black's gone, that's 5. You have to add another one in there. And maybe that's Matt Riddle. Maybe that's where Matt Riddle inserts himself into that. And then maybe somebody else leaves, and then you have to put Keith Lee in there, or, you sign somebody else and then you put them in there. So is it the best we've seen? It probably is the best we've seen, but it doesn't mean that there's not really great times ahead, though, too.
I'll say this. As far as the best we've seen, I think there's always great wrestlers that you can find. Like, we will get more great matches. I will say that from a storyline perspective, the last year to year and a half with this whole Gargano-Ciampa interweaving through multiple feuds, I do not think you will get a better story in NXT or WWE for a very long time. Because I just think the emotional investment, the timing of Ciampa's injury, how much the betrayal hurt, how good their match was at Louisiana, Ciampa winning the championship, Gargano going down a dark path. I have not seen intricate storytelling in the WWE, maybe from there forever. Like, I can't think of another storyline that rivals this. And I would be hard-pressed to say that NXT will top this for a very long time. Storyline perspective, not match quality, but from a storyline perspective, I don't think this gets beaten.
Do you think it was before that it was just good matches but not good storytelling, and now it's both?
Are you asking me for NXT as a whole?
Yeah, like, do you think that when we were watching NXT, like, we'll say, like, back in the 15-16 era, do you think that was great matches, storytelling, but now it's like both?
I thought the storytelling wasn't great in the main event, but the storytelling was great in the other ones. In the women's, Sasha and Bayley was a fantastic story, where Bayley finally overcame everything and proved that she could win the big one. That story had been building for years, where she had been Charlotte had stabbed her in the back and she had constantly lost. And then you had the DIY versus the Revival storytelling, where DIY finally won. So I think the storytelling had been there. Just, I don't necessarily know that the main events had great storytelling, but even then, Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville, that was fantastic storytelling about how Zayn put it all on the line and finally got the job done, only for Kevin Owens to powerbomb him on the apron the night he won the championship. So there was good storytelling. I just don't know that it was as interwoven maybe as, the women had done a pretty good job, because Charlotte and Becky had kind of flowed into that story, and they had done a good job with that. But this has been, not only the ridiculous level of matches, but, you've got everything from Gargano and Almas to Gargano and Black to Velveteen Dream being in there. I mean, it's been so good. Adam Cole has weaved his way in, and then on top of that, even outside of the Gargano-Ciampa storyline, you had that fantastic Undisputed Era versus Ricochet and Dunn and Warwick. I mean, it's just been so good. And this is like, the standard was so high that now you're saying, okay, we're going to get rid of that crop, top this. At a certain point, yeah, you can go from Montana to Steve Young, but you're not going to get a third Hall of Famer, most likely. The odds of you getting just another unbelievable quarterback is rare. And for NXT to maybe keep this up, we're probably going to see a bit of a dip in quality.
Gosh, I hope we don't see that, but I think eventually we're going to.
You mean like a Kaepernick era?
I think any 49ers fan would be more than happy if Kaepernick had been the quarterback, because they went through some Drunken Miller and some Steve Bono, and they had some pretty dark years there. I think they were the number 1 overall pick for a reason, and then I think they got Alex Smith pre-Harbaugh. I think we all know how bad that was.
Who was it? They had Jeff Garcia, wasn't it? That him for a little while.
Yeah, Jeff Garcia. Yep, he was the kind of ended that dynasty with them, and then they were bad.
Yep. Packers got Favre and whatever his name is, and he who shall not be named. And Bears had 32 guys. So anyway, so that's all the time we have for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you follow the show at OffTheMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast. And I want to thank all of our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to the show. And for Roger Cave, Doug Hunt, and Aaron Hughes, I am Andrew Hughes. And until next time, we'll see you in the ring.